Welcome everyone, join us today as we explore the amazing journey of Dave Clarke, the drummer, bandleader, producer, and quiet power figure behind the Dave Clarke 5, one of the most dominant forces of the British invasion era. So let's dive in. David Clarke, born the 15th of December 1939, in Tottenham, Middlesex, England. Born at the time when Tottenham fell within the historic county of Middlesex, it would later become part of Greater London following administrative changes. He was raised by his parents in modest surroundings, growing up in a flat above a greengrocer's shop on Phillip Lane, a busy thoroughfare in North London. His father was employed by the post office, while his mother worked at the Lenthric Morney perfume factory, a significant local employer during the post-war years. He attended Downhill's primary school in Tottenham, before moving on to Belmont Secondary School. Dave left school at 15 and entered working life without pursuing further formal education. During his teenage years, Dave was involved in amateur boxing, training and competing locally, until a broken nose brought his participation in the sport to an end. Before establishing himself in music, he worked in the British film industry, initially as a film extra and later as a credited stunt performer. This work formed a regular part of his employment during the late 1950s and early 1960s. He is credited in connection with more than 20 feature films, including The VIPs, On the Beat, The Victors, and I Could Go On Singing. Alongside his film work, Dave learned to play the drums and began performing with a local group. Music was pursued on a part-time basis, and all members of the early band held regular jobs. Performances took place primarily in North London and surrounding areas, including appearances at the Royal Tottenham and the Locarno in Basildon. The group also performed through a local youth group held at South Grove School, which provided early performance opportunities and local exposure. By the early 1960s, the group had settled into the lineup that became known as the Dave Clarke 5, consisting of Dave Clarke on drums, Mike Smith on lead vocals and keyboards, Lenny Davidson on lead guitar, Rick Huxley on bass, and Dennis Payton on saxophone and guitar. The band was based in North London and performed extensively on the local circuit. From the outset, Dave assumed responsibility for organizing engagements and managing practical arrangements for the group, in addition to his role as drummer. Dave financed the group's recordings himself, covering the cost of studio sessions, reported to be approximately £100 per recording. Because he assumed the financial risk, he received 3 times the standard royalty rate, an arrangement that gave him significant financial control from the outset of the band's recording career. Songwriting was typically handled by Dave in collaboration with Mike Smith, with Dave publishing the material himself. By early 1964, the Dave Clarke 5 had moved from the local circuit into national prominence. Their first major breakthrough came with the release of Glad All Over, which reached number 1 on the UK singles chart in January 1964, displacing the Beatles' I Want to Hold Your Hand. The record established the group as one of the leading acts of the emerging British beat scene and confirmed their commercial viability at a national level. A decisive shift occurred in March 1964, when Dave turned professional and was placed under contract by Harold Davidson, one of Britain's leading entertainment managers. The terms of the contract were highly unusual for the period. Dave was guaranteed an annual income of £50,000, regardless of the number of live appearances or audience sizes, and was required to be available for work for 48 weeks of the year. The contract applied only to live performances and did not include television appearances, radio work, recording contracts, songwriting, or publishing. The success of Glad All Over was followed by a rapid succession of hit records. Throughout 1964 and 1965, the band placed multiple singles in the UK and US charts, including Bits and Pieces, Can't You See That She's Mine, Because, Catch Us If You Can, and Over and Over. These releases were characterized by a heavy rhythmic emphasis, prominent use of saxophone, and a production style designed for immediate impact. During the height of the Dave Clarke 5's fame in the mid to late 1960s, Dave lived in a house known locally as The Drum, on Kendall Avenue, in the Southgate area of North London, where he relocated his parents to live with him. Around the same period, he also acquired a penthouse in Mayfair, which he used for social gatherings attended by prominent figures from the British music industry, including members of the Beatles. He was frequently seen driving a white Rolls-Royce Corniche bearing the personalized registration DC5. As British success translated to international demand, the band began touring extensively. They undertook 3 major world tours and made numerous trips to the United States, where they quickly became one of the most commercially successful British invasion acts. In America, the Dave Clark 5 achieved a sustained chart presence, placing 17 singles in the US Top 40 between 1964 and 1967. They also made 18 appearances on The Ed Sullivan Show, one of the highest totals for any British invasion group. These appearances placed the band before millions of viewers during peak network television hours, and played a major role in consolidating their US audience. During this period, Dave maintained tight control over the band's operations. He acted as leader, producer, and business manager, overseeing recording schedules, touring arrangements, and financial decisions. Unlike many contemporary groups, the Dave Clark 5 operated under a structure in which Dave retained ownership and authority over the band's output. Band members received fixed remuneration rather than profit participation, and Dave controlled publishing and recording rights. Songwriting during this period was typically handled by Dave in collaboration with lead singer Mike Smith, with Dave publishing the material himself. Any compositions credited to band members were issued under arrangements that included Dave as co-writer and publisher, ensuring centralized ownership of the catalog. In 1965, the Dave Clark 5 starred in the feature film Catch Us If You Can, directed by John Borman. The film was released at the height of the band's popularity and depicted a fictionalized version of the pressures associated with fame, touring, and media exposure. Dave was closely involved in the production, and the film remains one of the key British pop cinema releases of the decade. By the late 1960s, shifts in popular music tastes and the rise of album-oriented rock altered the commercial landscape. The Dave Clark 5 continued recording and performing, but the intensity of their earlier chart dominance began to ease. In 1970, the band formally ceased operations, bringing their career as a recording and touring group to an end. Following the band's dissolution, Dave briefly continued performing under the name Dave Clark and Friends, though this phase was short-lived. He did not pursue a conventional solo recording career and instead redirected his focus toward ownership, production, and rights management. One of Dave's most significant post-band decisions concerned the control of the Dave Clark 5 catalog. As the sole owner of the group's master recordings and publishing, he declined to license the band's material for reissue. As a result, from 1978 until 1993, the group's recordings were not legally available in any commercial format. In 1993, Dave oversaw the release of a single authorized CD, Glad All Over Again, issued by EMI in the United Kingdom. After this release, the catalog again remained unavailable until 2008, when the compilation The Hits was issued by Universal Music in the UK. During the 1970s and 1980s, Dave expanded his involvement in television and archival media. He acquired ownership of the rights to the influential British music program Ready Steady Go, securing control over one of the most significant visual records of British popular music from the 1960s. The archive included performances by many of the era's leading artists and later became central to Dave's role as a custodian of British pop history. In the mid-1980s, Dave developed a major theatrical project titled Time. The production premiered in London in 1986 and was accompanied by a concept album featuring performances by a range of prominent artists, including Freddie Mercury, Stevie Wonder, Julian Lennon, and Cliff Richard, with spoken contributions by Sir Laurence Olivier. Dave wrote and produced the project and retained ownership of its rights. Dave's association with Freddie Mercury extended beyond the Time project. The two became close friends after meeting in 1975, and Dave later took over the bedside vigil during Mercury's final days before his death in November 1991. That same year, Dave was profiled in the book The Big Beat: Conversations with Rock's Great Drummers, edited by Max Weinberg, placing his career within the broader history of rock percussion and band leadership. Recognition of the Dave Clark 5's historical significance was formalized in 2008, when the group was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, with Tom Hanks delivering the induction speech. The honor acknowledged the band's impact during the British invasion and their sustained success in the United States. Following the induction, Dave continued to manage and control the Dave Clark 5 master recordings and associated rights, retaining full ownership and final approval over all licensing decisions. In 2014, he returned publicly to the band's story when he wrote, produced, appeared in, and partially presented the 115-minute television documentary The Dave Clark 5 and Beyond, Glad All Over, which examined the group's career and its wider place within 1960s popular culture. During the late 2010s, renewed attention was drawn to Dave's 1986 stage project Time. In 2019, a previously unreleased vocal performance by Freddie Mercury, recorded during the original Time sessions, was officially released under the title, Time Waits for No One. Dave had preserved the recording for more than 3 decades and personally supervised its completion and release. The track received international attention and introduced the Time project to a new generation of listeners. Away from music, Dave became a highly successful entrepreneur and, as a result, a multi-millionaire. Over several decades, he invested heavily in property and media assets, including residential and commercial real estate in London, alongside long-term ownership of music and television intellectual property. These investments formed the foundation of his post-performance career and allowed him to remain financially independent without returning to public life. Throughout his adult life, Dave has maintained a strong preference for privacy. He has rarely discussed personal relationships publicly and has largely avoided media attention unless directly connected to archival or rights-related projects. He has continued to live quietly, dividing his time between residences in London and abroad. His London home, valued at approximately £12 million, was created by combining several identical terraced houses, with adjoining walls removed to form a single residence. As of the present day, Dave Clark remains retired from public performance. He does not tour, record, or appear in nostalgia shows. His activities are centered on the management of his business interests, the preservation of music and television archives, and the careful stewardship of his work. And there you have it. From chart-topping success to complete creative and financial control, Dave Clark proved as smart as he was successful, admired by fans worldwide, and remembered as a man who lived, worked, and walked away entirely on his own terms. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos on your favorite artists, just like this. Take care and bye for now.